Today we worked on the Bible Key Themes worksheet. Students first did number 1 individually, and then they did number 2 and answered A, B, C, and D with a partner. It was optional, so they didn't have to, but most did. So the first thing they were to do is to annotate the passages below. So if you notice, verse 10 is highlighted, so you were to highlight any words that may not be familiar, you may not be familiar with, or maybe anything that would stick out to you in Exodus 32, or if you keep going, in John 8:31 through 38. And there was no minimum or maximum, so yes, you could do just one if you wanted to. Then you were to underline any keywords or phrases that pointed to God's character. What that means is, for example, if you look at verse 11, Moses responds to God's anger towards the Israelite people in verse 10 by saying, "O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt?" This was underlined by a student because they thought it pointed to God's mercy and how he had helped his people originally escape Egypt, and his power in helping them escape. Then students answered each of these questions, and I'm not going to go over them because there's not really a right or wrong, but number 1, or letter A, there is in letter A. So first of all, the OT passage, that just means Old Testament passage. And there's never the word enslaved used, but we know that the word slave means to be under the complete control of will of something. And so the people, they were enslaved in the sense of it wasn't used in this passage. They were enslaved in the sense that they were under the control or submission of the golden calf once they created this idol, which is showing that's what happens to us each time we choose to worship an idol instead of God. So you're just answering these honestly, but for letter A, there is a correct answer in the what I just talked about. So we did that first, and then we read our pro entry document on Wednesday, I think. Today in B block, we read some of the anti-entry document. The pro entry, this document talks about, there is Wilson's speech to Congress in why America should go to war. And so Wilson originally was reelected on the basis of not going to war. And so he's kind of having to present his case before Congress and the people of America as to why he thinks it is the best decision to go to war. And so we read this together and walked through it. So on Monday, if you return on Monday, I'll explain this in a little more depth. It's hard when you're not there hearing other students and dialoguing. So the first thing we did is fill out the claims and evidence worksheet. So we only did step 1 and step 3 on this worksheet. So for step 1, when we read the pro entry document of Wilson's speech, we know that Wilson's claim was that America should go to war, and his reason or evidence is Germany was murdering innocent people, especially when of the sinking of Lusitania, but even other ships and passing and carrying cargo and innocent people. And this was found in lines 18 to 20. So right here you see the lines number included where they found their evidence. The other reason or evidence that Wilson gives for America going to war is that America needs to be defended and protected. If you looked at when we read, and you may not have seen this, but Belgium and the UK were invaded by Germany, and so Wilson was concerned that this could also happen to America. And this was found in lines 50 to 52. So we scrolled down, and specifically, in other places he also talks about this. Today, in B block, when we read the anti-entry document, it is this senator specifically from Wisconsin, and he is talking about, here are my reasons for why America should not go to war. So his first reason is because many Americans originally disagreed with the idea. He had received 15,000 letters and telegrams of people saying they agreed with him in opposing war. And so for his first reason was that was good enough evidence, because Wilson was representing the American people. If most of the American people thought it would be a good idea not to go to war, that he should consider that. The other evidence or reason he gave is it would cost many people their lives. Not only their literal lives, but then you would have fathers or other people who would support these families would go to war, and so there'd be no one financially able to care for them. This is found, we looked at line 25, but there's also evidence of this elsewhere in the writing. So students did this and they held, oh goodness, and they held on to it. The main thing, you're going to want to make sure that you have this on your sheet when you return next week, and then we can talk about it more in depth when you return. Students are going to use this when they work on their debates next week with their partner. That's the main thing we did today, other than discussing parts for our book report. If you will not be here next week, you can email me separately and we'll talk about a plan for you to give your oral presentation. You can just record yourself. If you are going to be here next week, you want to make sure that you have your plot diagram with you to give me, and that you also have parts of your oral report. You're kind of thinking about it, and then we're going to work on that on Monday also.